This is the new Mustang. We drove it a while back and we found it a bit, well, lame. But the thing about the Mustang is you can always improve the breed, as I shall now explain with a rather noisy history lesson.
One of the many great things about the Mustang is that it really introduced drivers to the whole idea of options, of speccing up your car. So when it first came out in the early 1960s, nobody wanted a bongo standard one with a six-cylinder engine. They wanted ones like this, the GT390.
This is the Bullet Mustang, the one Steve McQueen hurled into movie history around the streets of San Francisco.
The GT390 is, in car terms, one of the seven wonders of the world. The noise, the presence.
Very, very few cars live up to their hype.
But this car does, and I should know, because this is my GT390.
And I'm using it to make a Mustang point. Everything that made it good, the engine, the lights, the stripes, was extra. Basically, if you wanted a good one, you had to forget cheap and cheerful and go for the bells and whistles version. And that is what's been missing so far from the new one. Until now.
God damn!
This is the Mustang GT500. And from every angle, you can see its muscle car biceps straining to burst out of the bodywork. It's also festooned with menacing Cobra badges, a tribute to tuning legend Carroll Shelby.
Now, Shelby only ever put his name to the fastest and most powerful Mustangs, which means this thing has got to be more than just a fashion statement.
And it is.
Good God!
You see, this car has the supercharged V8 from the Ford GT.
Which means power goes up from 300 to 500 horsepower. 0 to 60, 4.9 seconds. 0 to 100, 10 seconds.
In America, the GT500 has gone down a storm. The queues are out of the door and round the block.
Now, if you wait your turn, you could put one of these on your drive in Britain for £35,000. Sounds tempting. The question is, should you? Let's start with the power. That 500 horsepower, it's a bit, you know, neat.
This is a rolling road. It's a sort of lie detector for engines and gives the true horsepower reading. Genuinely looking forward to this. What's the score? Really? Right. So this GT500 actually makes 447.
Almost. There you go, that seems fair enough. You know, thinking about it, while I've got the machine here, please don't hurt it. It had, when it was brand new, 325 horsepower. And I'm assured by the man who sold me it that this is a fine example of the breed.
Anyway, back to the job in hand. And speaking of disappointments,
Multi-link geometry, dual rate remote reservoir dampers, fully independent rear suspension. These are just some of the things that this Mustang hasn't got.
No, what this car uses is a live axle, which, as rear suspension goes, is basically a whacking great girder with a wheel at each end.
It's not exactly the most modern layout. Noah's Ark had a similar setup.
Because the technology is old-fashioned, you can have some good old-fashioned fun. But when it all goes wrong, the Mustang becomes as precise and dynamic as, well, an Ark. Now, Ford say they didn't give the GT500 modern suspension because it would have added $5,000 to the price of each car.
That is a ridiculous decision. You can't just give a car an extra 200 brake horsepower and then leave it with prehistoric suspension.
What you're left with, then, is a car that looks great and goes fast in a straight line. And that's it. But don't despair.
If you really want to spend 30 grand on a Mustang that looks good and goes fast in a straight line,
then why not buy the one that has the pedigree and the history and makes a great noise? Buy this one. Well, not this one, obviously. It's a bit down on power.
You're absolutely right. You can't put that much power in a car without changing the suspension. You just can't, or the brakes.
exactly, the rest of it can't handle it. Anyway, we must now find out how fast the Shelby goes round our track. And to do that, we've got to put it in the hands of our tame racing driver. Some say he isn't machine washable, and all his potted plants are called Steve. All we know is he's called the Stig. OK, away he goes, and you can see the back wheels bobbing around, struggling for grip. That's the low-tech suspension for you. Let's see how it affects things in the corners. Diving into the first one now, looking fairly composed so far, not too bad. Just breaking loose a little bit on the exit there.
Guiding his hands, she helped him to unbutton her pretty lilac blouse.
More gushing fiction from Stig's collection there. Chicago now. You can see it trying to cock a back wheel, and then it gets all out of shape on the way out. That is messy. Hammerhead now. Heaving forward on the brakes, then is lurching over into the turn. Stig kicks it into a bit of a drift. It's smoking the inside wheel, but not elegant.
Locking her arms round his neck, she softly pressed her lips to his.
Into follow-through. Chance to see this car at its best now, which is in a straight line. Yep, that's fast through the tyres. 2 corners left. Oh dear, wallowing about like a frisky hippo there. Just Gambon to negotiate now. He hurls it in, dab of opposite lock and across the line. It did it in 1 minute 30 exactly.
130, so
precisely, yeah.
the same as a Monaro.
Yes, which is good, but not.
It's good, but the thing is, you could see it wobbling about in that. I mean, Stig was all over the place, and that really brings me on to this, okay, which is the Roush Mustang. Now, it's only got 415 brake horsepower, this, okay, which obviously isn't as much as the Shelby, but they have changed the suspension, they have changed the brakes, and I drove this last year in America, and it was just. I mean, really properly brilliant car, this.
But if I'm right, this is, what, £10,000 more expensive than the Shelby?
Well, yes, but it's 10 grand more car. It really is. In fact, earlier on, after the Stig had been out in the Shelby, we gave this to him, and this is what it looked like out there. Here he is coming up to... Where is he now? That's Chicago. You see, look, there's no wobbling like there was in the Shelby. Also makes that supercharger whine, and then the exhaust. This has got a limited slip diff as well, which the Shelby hasn't, so it doesn't just spin all the power away on the inside wheel. It's... Oh, God, that's such a nice car. Do you know what the time was?
Go on.
OK, 415 horsepower. What was this, 450 or thereabouts?
Yep.
It was 1:28.
Whoa!
1 minute 28, so it's 2 seconds faster than the Shelby.
But it is M3 money.
Yes, but honestly, I'd have one of those if I were the sort of person who looked at my sister and thought,